4 calls on an unidentified flying object.
Oh my God, I hope that's a plane. Oh Jesus Christ, please be a plane. Oh please. Come on, I ain't ready for this shit.
That bit was just a small section in an over 50-minute long audio recording of calls from citizens, police, and a bunch of other people all seeing this giant craft in the sky. So to try to figure out what it was, I'm gonna go over the full story, talk to police and the actual 911 operator that was getting all these calls that exact night.
But the plan is to go over the full recording so we can figure out what happened, and it all starts at Sampson Drive.
A lot of the calls were referenced to a vacant lot about halfway down this drive, which I think is just up here. And this is the only vacant lot we found. So I'm assuming they were talking about this one. Let's show off the vacant lot a little. Look at the sky. Like there's a lot of sky space over here.
I was coming down Sampson Drive. It was almost, it looked like it was, I don't know what it was. If it was a flying saucer or what it was. It wasn't an airplane. 4 calls in on an unidentified object over Liberty.
4 calls.
4 calls on an unidentified flying object.
Come on down, take a look.
Apparently the calls started coming in around 12:30 at night.
Out in the area, checking for an object in the sky. Copy at 30 after.
I do think that's very interesting because obviously they weren't hearing it, so that wouldn't have got them out their house. I'm assuming it was really bright because yeah, why would these people be calling that late at night unless they were seeing some crazy stuff?
Sir, I have another report at Sampson Drive, and also we've been advised by caller to the media. Media informed us it was a blue-green object hovering, no noise.
Wait, red, blue, and green?
It's Christmas. It's Christmas lights, bro.
It was the Grinch. Now, what we're about to listen to, finally the cops get onto Sampson Drive. And this is the cop. This is the actual cop talking about seeing this thing.
996, you advised not, you don't see anything?
It was like a red pulsating light.
The radio was advised to be blue and green.
I saw it was red. It was like a pulsating light. It looked like it was like to the bottom of the airplane, but it was real big.
And we were going to talk to this police officer and the 911 operator later, but we still have to go over the rest of the story to figure out all the details.
So what they do now, this is big, this is important. They contact the airbase nearby because they can like look at the radars and be like, oh, do you see anything in the air?
Verify they have no contact with any helicopter or private owned vehicles that might be in the area.
So we got a general description. No sound, bright lights. Some people said green, blue, and red. The police officer just said one singularly large red light.
But this spot was just a small area where people were seeing this bright object. So we headed to one of the next hot spots to get more clues on what was happening this night.
We're now on the path. I believe the officer was probably taken. I mean, he says that he's following this thing. I do find it a little bit weird that it was, some people were saying green and red around Christmas. I hope that one day aliens do come and they do try to kill us and it unites humanity. 10,000 likes and I'll make it happen. Okay. Officer chases it here, but there's also more reports that come in from 5th Avenue that we're about to listen to now.
Smooth green, no noise. No noise. It was low flying and took off. But oh, come on. 5th Avenue. Are you serious? It's driving up 5th Avenue extension. Now, no, but, oh, Christ. Not driving. Are you flying? It came down and just zooped over it with a big, glowing object. Well, we got 4 calls on it. The last guy said it was a fighter plane.
So one of the first officers, the one that we hear on the call, is Sergeant Toby Malero. The officer that drives over here, he follows the object, he describes it as the pulsating red light, and then he says his patrol car's electronics reportedly failed during this moment.
Everything shut off in the vehicle. I didn't understand what was going on. My car completely stopped.
So more police officers are starting to get on this. Some of the key search points they look for is Henhide Road and Hallen Township Road. So we're gonna head over there and there's a little bit more of the call that we're gonna uncover. So this right here is the road that some of the officers go to.
Over a Henhide in Hallen Township. They're seeing this, they're watching this thing. It goes 50 feet from the ground. There's blue and green lights. Some people say they see a red holding light.
50 feet from the ground with no noise. See me? About 6 feet. Some would say taller than 6 feet, actually.
Well, for one, you're not 6 feet, but yeah.
But yeah, 50 feet. Okay, I think that, like, low-key, that tree right there would be a 5-story building. So that's not that high. Like, you could, it looks like you could almost grab it. If I ever see an alien that close to being above me, that's what I'm gonna hit him with.
See the alien golf girl?
Puppy. uppies. But yeah, this is one of the last main key places they mentioned.
And that was the gist of the entire recorded 911 call. But we needed more details to figure out what actually happened here. So we headed down to the 911 call center to hopefully get some more clues on what this actually was from Royanne.
As you can see right behind us, this is the actual place where she was taking the calls from. All right, so we're here with Royanne. Could you just give us a little bit of an introduction, who you are?
I'm Royanne. At the time was Royanne Rudolph. I'm Royanne Malik now, and I was working midnight shift at the 911 center here in Trumbull County.
So I guess my first question is, that night, how many calls were you getting?
So when it started off, I think I'd already had maybe 6 or 7 calls for just mundane things.
So can you tell me just the full story, how that night went for you?
So when it started, I distinctly remember there was a mother and daughter who called, and they were really upset. And there's this light in our backyard. It's just kind of hanging there. I'm like, okay, we'll have somebody check. Everything's going to be okay. Then probably about 4 to 5 calls later, one of the anchor people call up and says, hey, we just got a call from these 2 women. They're really getting a little hysterical about this. I thought, okay, I'll send somebody because these people are so excited about this. And I dispatched chief of police, and I said, hey, Toby, they say there's this light over like Samson Drive. They're trying to make it sound like it's UFO. Toby gets in the area and he says, all right, he goes, I see a light. I'm going to go and investigate this. Then I check up on him and I check up on him and I check up on him, and he's not answering. And now it has validity. And he finally comes back on the air and he says, radio, I'm going to need to be out with my thoughts for a minute. He goes, call the airport. Yeah. So I call the airbase and he says, no, I'm looking on the radar and there's nothing.
We called out to the airbase earlier, and they said that they hadn't had anything on their...
And again, Liberty and Vienna are probably about 7 miles from where he's at to the airbase. I was friends with some of the Holland guys, and that's where the 911 center's located right now. And I said, hey, everybody's looking at it. I want to see it too. And we get to an area on State Route 82. He stops the cruiser, he grabs binoculars, we get out, and we can see it. And it's above our heads, and it's just sitting. Lights, there's like an undulating light, bright light underneath it. It took off, went east, and it just shot like a bullet. It's not what I see every day living in Liberty.
So we heard on the call that people were saying it was about 50 feet above them. Is that how close it was to you, or was it a lot higher?
It would have had to have been way higher than 50 feet, but it was very discernible. Like you could see there was a shape to it, and it wasn't a plane shape. And again, I thought, well, we're standing here and it was so quiet, being cold out. And you don't know if you ever go out when it's really cold and just like everything seems kind of amplified anyway. There was no noise.
Completely silent, huh? So were the people calling describing this the same way, or was it pretty different?
No, I mean, the colors were different. How low they would estimate was a little bit different, but everybody was sincerely like, what the hell? I don't see this all the time. You had a genuine level of excitement, and it was very transparent. These people, they were seeing something they just couldn't explain, and it wasn't familiar to them. When it zipped off, it zipped east, but it was like it would have went way past the next city or town. The way it flew, the way it moved, it was incredible. I've never seen anything zip off like that.
What did everybody kind of think it was?
I mean, those of us who said we saw something, and everybody did that night. I mean, there's no getting around that. Everybody said they saw it. Everybody kind of was like, yeah, I don't know what it was. And they kind of quieted down, because you get the, oh, little green men, and you start finding alien stickers on everything. And
you said there's like a formation of lights. What exactly did that look like to you?
Whatever the vehicle was, I could see the white part, but you could see there was a light above it, a light below that was kind of at the bottom of it. And what I remember is like blue-green.
Do you think it was a military craft, or what do you think?
That's the way I felt comfortable because, that's explainable. What I saw was not explainable.
I now knew more of the story, and the important part, it was very real that nobody seemed to know what this was. Royanne didn't even really have a theory, it sounded like. But the most convincing part of this entire story was Toby, the police officer investigating it. And I had a ton of questions for him. Did his vehicle actually shut off? What did it look like? Is there anything else that happened that he didn't report? And what happened after this night off all of the calls? So extremely kindly, Royanne connected us to him, and we headed over to talk to Toby. Unfortunately, he didn't want to be on camera, but we were still able to call.
We drove about 18 minutes and we are now in front of the police station. This is the exact police station where Toby would have come from. They got their police cars right over there, so they probably hopped out of there to drive. Hey, Toby, thanks for taking the call today. Could you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you did and where you were that night?
Okay, my name's Toby Malaro. I'm a police officer with the Liberty Township Police Department.
So I guess my first question is, how was it like being the first officer there, first on the scene? Like, were you thinking this was just a joke, or were you scared at all, or what was that like?
Well, when I got out of the car and I tried to look at it and I had showed my eyes, I'm saying, what the hell is this? Yeah, I would say it scared me a little bit. The other departments said they saw what appeared to be a spaceship. I did not see that.
Can you kind of just go through the whole story of you driving there and getting there and everything that happened?
Back in 95, I believe, I was a patrolman. We live by airport. It's a military base, so we'll get some calls about people hearing things in the sky or seeing things in the sky. The call came in that they're seeing lights in the sky. And I said, well, let me go check this out. It's probably a plane or something. So the call was on Sampson Drive. I was approached by an elderly gentleman walking his dog. He said, oh my God, it was just over my house. The lights. I said, why don't you just go in your house, relax, everything's okay. I continued down the road about a quarter of a mile. All of a sudden, my whole vehicle, everything shut down. Huge light up in the skies, probably maybe about 100 feet above the tree line. No noise, no nothing, but it was like looking into the sun when I looked at it. I stepped out of the vehicle and I'm standing there, with my hand on my gun going, what the hell is this? It was nothing that I've ever seen before. Probably about 45 seconds, then it shot off. And as it shot off, within 35 seconds or so, I hear all these sirens coming my way. I'm going, what the hell's going on? My car automatically started up. Everybody was coming my way because they said I hadn't responded to the radio for about 4.5 minutes. So we tried to follow the light. Other departments saw it. The 911 center was getting calls from all over the place.
Did the object move like anything you've seen before, like a helicopter or aircraft, or was it something completely different?
If that was a plane, it had to be, the stealth bombers were coming out then, I understand. But the plane didn't, as it went off, it didn't make any noise at all. And what's weird on this whole thing is we did a follow-up probably 2.5 months later, and everyone that was working the airbase that night had been transferred. You couldn't get any information.
So I guess after this night and talking to other officers and just everything you had seen, what were people kind of thinking this was?
A lot of people are into this UFO thing. They thought it was, something from another world. I got calls from all kind of people, some kind of UFO group out of California, I believe. They wanted me to come and share a meeting, and I didn't know it was such a big thing. I've
heard a lot of different descriptions about the lights and like what formation they were in. What was it looking like for you?
Very difficult to determine its shape. It was so bright. It was actually like, if I would say anything, it was oblong. It was so intense. Here I have my hand on my gun, like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna shoot at this thing.
Do you have any personal theory on what you think it might be, or absolutely no idea?
I actually think it had to do something with the military. Could have been a plane they were testing out. Could have been something like the stealth bomber. And I've had the opportunity to see stealth bombers fly, and they do not make much noise, but they're there because there's still a little bit of noise. The thing that was strange is nothing was seen in the skies. Now, whether they were lying to us or they were under orders not to say anything, or, you don't know what's going on.
But now that we had all the pieces of the puzzle, it was time to go over the theories and figure out what this likely was. We're now back on Sampson Drive, where it all started. Over the years it's been since this, there's been a lot of theories, and there's been some people that have looked deeply into these theories. So we're gonna quickly go over them. There's one theory that Royanne mentioned to us, but this one's kind of doesn't, I can't believe this one. It was an astronomical / atmospheric misidentification. This makes absolutely no sense. People were trying to tell her and other people that saw it that it was either a star or planet. But this literally doesn't explain anything. This doesn't explain the police equipment going off. This doesn't explain it moving. This doesn't explain it being like large. This doesn't explain anything. Next, some people think aircraft or helicopters. There's some reasons that this couldn't be a helicopter. There's only one helicopter pad in all of this area. And a man named Kenny Young, this dude did like hella research into all of this. He found out that everything was logged for that helicopter, and it was just too far away from
where the objects would have been. Like it wouldn't have made sense. Also, you would have, he says, in fact, you would have heard it for sure. And even the lights, he said the lights, the colors of the lights didn't match up. So it's like absolutely not a helicopter. Next one is what we were talking about, secret military aircraft. Basically, people think there was a lot of stealth aircrafts that they were testing out. If you really stretch it, that could explain the officers' stuff going off. Maybe they're testing some fucking like EMP and stuff. I don't think it could have been a drone with how long ago that was. So I don't know. That's still, that theory is like a 50-50, honestly, to me. Obviously, we have aliens. A lot of people think this was aliens. And like every case, this is something we just can't really prove unless we found some DNA, some slime. Oh yeah, look at that alien egg over there. We could be like fathers to a little alien and raise him. But yeah, those are honestly basically all of the theories. And when you look at the actual facts, I mean, the closest thing you could say is a military aircraft, but even then it's like, some things don't make sense. It doesn't make sense that it was standing still. Like all the aircrafts back then, they're like planes. Unless it was some type of helicopter, but then you would have heard it. But guys, what do you think it was? I'm curious on what you think it is. It's kind of crazy. I think they might have whatever this was at Area 51.
There was a raid on this place in 2019, but there was one big problem. It was a joke. Look at these videos. People were smiling. They didn't get any answers. I want to get answers. I'm going to get as many people to show up there, protest, bring thermal cameras, and to raid Area 51. But I can't do this alone. There's one man that shares my same mission, and this man has experience sneaking into some of the most secure places in the world. I want answers! We're getting answers! But how are we gonna make sure that we actually get answers? People actually show up to this?
Well, 115,000 people in my community already signed up to see this happen. At this point, all we need is numbers. We need you guys to come out and raid this place with us.
Every week, I will be recruiting more YouTubers to join us on the raid to Area 51.
And you guys are invited. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Gavin's channel because when he hits 3 million subscribers, we're dropping the date of the raid.